Good evening, this is Brass Tacks and Zakka Jacob. What we're going to show you tonight on Brass Tacks has the potential to turn the Sushant Singh Rajput death case on its head. From day one, Sushant's family has been accusing Rhea Chakrabarti of siphoning off 15 crores from Sushant's account. That was the basis of Sushant's father's FIR that was registered in Patna in Bihar. But the evidence that we have tonight is telling a completely different story altogether. Tonight, we'll be talking about the missing 15 crores and what does that mean in the context of the probe into Sushant Singh Rajput's death. Later on in the show, it's the biggest political interview of 2020. A day after calling it a truce with the Congress party, Sachin Pilot breaks his silence first on CNN News 18. Also later on the show, Russia claims to have developed the world's first COVID-19 vaccine, but is a vaccine good enough to protect you against a virus? That's what we'll be speaking with Jacob Glanville, the CEO of Distributed Biotech. But first, this big exclusive on Brass Tacks. CNN News 18 has accessed Rhea Chakrabarti's bank statement all the way from January of 2019 up until August of 2020. Now, let's break that down for you on our Christie wall here as to how this adds up. Do the numbers really add up? Remember, Rhea's bank statement, not 1 rupee has been transferred from any of Sushant's accounts to Rhea's account. At least, certainly not in this account. This is an HDFC bank account statement that we have managed to access. Not 1 rupee in a year and a half from January 2019 to August 2020 has been transferred from Sushant's account to Rhea's account. Number 2, and this is where it gets interesting, the only transaction between a Sushant account and a Rhea account, in this case vice versa, it's Rhea's account that's transferred money, 33,000 rupees to Sushant's account. So 33,000 rupees from Rhea's account to Sushant's is the only transaction between the two of them. Rhea's managed to get money from her talent agencies, including Quan Talent, which is one of the leading talent agencies in Mumbai. She's also managed to get other money for work from different production houses and all of that. This has come to her, this HDFC bank account, because that's her primary bank account. She also has another account with ICICI Bank, which is less frequently used. This is her primary bank account. And in this, we don't see any money having come from Sushant's account to Rhea's. So where does that leave the case? Remember, today there was the arguments in the Supreme Court as well. The court has reserved its order for Thursday. Kulbir Krishnan is a former IPS officer, and Sujay Kantawala, lawyer at the Bombay High Court, now joining us. Sujay, let me start with you. You know, the crux of the FIR that Sushant's father registered in Patna was on the basis of this, that 15 crores went missing from his son's account, and he suspects it's gone to Rhea's account. We have shown just now, and we have accessed this bank account, the primary account that she was operating, and that money is not there. So what does this mean in the context of the case?
Well, let me put it this way for all your viewers, that first is the FIR, which has been filed in Patna, in which various offences have been placed, or various sections of the IPC. On the basis of that, the predicate offence, which is also scheduled offence in PMLA, the Enforcement Directorate has registered an ECIR and then taken over the investigations. Now, what is money laundering and what is sale proceeds of a criminal activity? For example, if you and I enter into a conspiracy, that is 120B of the IPC, a conspiracy with a common intention, and want to depute the other gentleman on the show. So, therefore, there was a conspiracy. We induced him, or we we created such a facade that you would cheat him and siphon off money from his account. Now, if that money from his account travels to our account, and which the ED has to prove, then that is the sale proceeds as a result of a criminal activity. Now, you and I decide
which is fair. Which is fair. Sujay, which is fair. But then that money has to show up in either your account or my account. Let's say, I mean, if you're saying Mr. Kulbir is the other guest on the show, and if we are defrauding him, then that money has to show up in either your account or mine. In this case, it's not shown up in Rhea's account.
So therefore, those investigations are still going on. This is a very vital instance that you have brought on record. There could be other things. So, but let me just complete the trajectory of my submission. Now, you and I split the proceeds and we project it to the world as untainted. That projection as untainted to the world, that this is all honestly earned income, that is a vital ingredient of the concept and definition of money laundering under PMLA. Because I do a couple of cases, so I read this again and again.
Okay.
So that is very important. But in ED, that is in PMLA, you have the normal presumption of innocence in other laws. This is a special statute where there is a reverse burden of proof. So the problem is this: what you have brought on record, assuming this is the only angle of investigation, still it will be Rhea who will have to prove that she is innocent. That is how the law is framed by the parliament.
Kulbir, Krishnan, I find that a little off, because the only monies that we have seen being transferred, other than, of course, individual transfers that have happened in this account between her family members and so on and so forth, the only professional monies that we have seen have come from talent agencies or production houses or film companies for work done. We have not seen any other suspicious transaction in this account, which we are given to understand was her primary account. Now, I will buy Sujay's point to, let's meet him halfway down the road, right? If the argument is that she used this money to buy property and did not transfer it to her account, then we need to see where that property is, or that property needs to have some documents. We don't have the property or the documents. We don't have the money in the account. It can't just vanish into thin air, can it, Mr. Krishnan?
See, there are two separate cases. One case is filed by Sushant's father in Patna. That is under section 306, which is abetment to suicide. Then it says, forceful confinement, wrongful confinement, then cheating. There are 5-6 sections of law. If what you are saying is true, the cheating portion and the other portion fall flat. But abetment to suicide, wrongful confinement, and the other sections which have been applied still remain. Okay. It is the ED which is looking into the money laundering, which has already been explained by Mr. Sujay very well. So the ED case may very well get affected if she has not taken any money. But this is about how he died. And the principle, what everyone is interested is not so much in his money as how did he die. And that is the question.
So can I make a submission? So Sushant's father's complaint, as I understand in the Bihar FIR, was she was controlling his life, she was controlling his finances. She walked away with whatever credit cards and passwords and so on and so forth, and this 15 crores is missing. Now, underlying there, isn't it a submission that the father feels Sushant was swindled of his money? And this also contributed to the mental state of being that he was in at the point of time that he died.
No, see, what is coming out in the public domain is that she dumped him on the 8th of June.
Yes.
And blocked his calls. And so that maybe it affected his mental state, maybe it did not affect. But the fact is that he died on the 13th or 14th morning. Okay. Right. So
14, yes.
14th. So what happens is that, how was his death? The basic thing is, the Mumbai police have very correctly registered a case under 174, which is unnatural death. Okay, that is called an inquest. Now, the inquest is normally done by an assistant sub-inspector. Even a sub-inspector doesn't do an inquest normally. But let me tell you, I'm sorry to say this, but even a rookie ASI would not make the mistakes which Mumbai police have made in this case. A sketch map is drawn, photographs are taken, the body is shown hanging, etc. Here it appears that the body was already on the bed.
Yeah.
And what happens is you have to measure, what is the distance between the bed and the fan.
Okay.
So if I'm hanging from a fan and the distance is less than 7 feet, it becomes difficult because the rope or the dupatta or whatever I've used for hanging will be at least a foot long.
No, fair enough. No, all of that is part of the abetment to suicide charge. I'm singularly focused.
One small point.
Quickly.
What happens is that an inquest cannot continue indefinitely. It's supposed to end as per the Supreme Court's guidelines when the post-mortem is done. The final post-mortem was done on 25th June.
Yes.
Okay. The Mumbai police have come to the conclusion it was suicide.
Yes.
Fine. They must have good reasons for it. Then what after that, they have recorded around 40, 50 more statements. When they record these more statements, it appears that they think that there was some abetment to the suicide. Otherwise, there's no need to register all these statements.
Okay. Let me go to Sujay and I'll give him the final word because I'm really out of time. I'm really out of time, Mr. Krishnan. Sujay, what I want to know is this. I'm willing to separate the two. One is the abetment to suicide, fair enough. Let the police go in, probe, find out what is there. The other is this financial angle, and there is a separate case, as you said, which the ED is probing. Supposing the ED were to come back and say, we can't find this missing 15 crores, or there is no evidence to suggest that this 15 crores was not swindled from Sushant's account into Rhea's account or used to purchase property or whatever it is, what bearing does that then have on the abetment to suicide part of this case?
No, in fact, it doesn't, because the ED case is based on the FIR filed by the in Patna. So the ED case is a consequence as a result of a scheduled offense. So assuming for the sake of argument that the ED cannot find any evidence and decides that, look, we let us close this, we have no evidence of money laundering or sale proceeds of crime. All right. It is not going to, as my friend Kulbir ji just now mentioned, it is not going to affect the IPC aspect, that is your 306, etc. And let me tell you, today it has been a historic day in our jurisprudence. What was argued before the Supreme Court was a victim-centric jurisprudence that needs to develop in this country. An accused cannot choose the investigating agency. That is what is important. And on the concept of jurisdiction, where the consequences are going to occur. So
anyway, the jurisdiction matters with the Supreme Court. We'll get a verdict one way or the other, hopefully on Thursday, to figure out, whether the passing of the case to the CBI is valid and where this trial will happen, because that's the latest plea that Rhea has filed, that even if the CBI were to take over the case, let the trial happen in Mumbai. Thanks very much, Sujay Kantawala, Kulbir, Krishnan. Thanks very much for joining us. But I want to bring you up to speed with the other story. This was, again, a dramatic twist, which CNN News 18 first broke early in the morning, that Sushant Singh Rajput's father made at least one attempt to Rhea Chakrabarti and one attempt to Shruti Modi, who was his former manager, to try and pleaded with them to allow him to speak to his son. Rhea apparently blocked Sushant's father's attempts to reach out to him. Shruti Modi did not respond either. This is, again, a CNN News 18 exclusive.
25 फरवरी को मैंने बांदा पुलिस को आगाह किया था कि मेरे बेटे सुशांत की जान को खतरा है, परंतु उन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया।
A week ago, Sushant Singh Rajput's father released a video claiming that he had been trying to get the Mumbai police's attention since February last year. Now, CNN News 18 has accessed WhatsApp texts that KK Singh sent to both Rhea Chakrabarti and Sushant's former manager, Shruti Modi. Both texts were sent on the same day, the 29th of November 2019. And both had the same theme, a father wanting to know about his son's well-being. In his text message to Rhea, KK Singh acknowledged that she's Sushant's girlfriend and asked for an update on his son's health, practically begging Rhea to talk to him. When he reached out to Shruti Modi, Singh expressed his desire to come to Mumbai to see Sushant and asked for his tickets to be booked. While the screenshots have been made public, it appears that the messages were not acknowledged by either Rhea or Shruti Modi. WhatsApp texts were also highlighted by Rhea's legal team to prove that Sushant's relationship with his family was strained. In a WhatsApp chat with Rhea, Sushant allegedly referred to his sister Priyanka as pure evil and manipulative. It was Priyanka who had claimed that Rhea had taken over Sushant's life and money in just a week and pushed her out of the picture. Shiv Sena MP Sanjay Raut also added his 2 bits, claiming that Sushant was unhappy with his father for remarrying.
कितने बार सुशांत अपने पिता को मिलने गया था पटना में। आप देखिए उतना आप प्यार, आपको शौक, सदमा, ये सब शब्द मैंने देखे हैं उनके। मुझे संवेदना है पिता के बारे में, लेकिन बहुत सी बातें ऐसी है जो सच अब सामने आएगा।
On one side is a woman who claims she was in love with Sushant. On the other is a family which claims to have always had Sushant's best interests in mind. But which side betrayed Sushant's trust?
All right, so this WhatsApp drama that's been going on between Sushant's family and Rhea, messages after messages that are being put out. But let's shift focus away from the Sushant story to the other big story. This is the biggest political interview of the year by far. A day after the truce in Rajasthan, the man who's been at the centre of the Congress's political crisis there has broken his silence and spoke first to CNN News 18's Pallavi Ghosh. Sachin Pilot says he's not bitter, he's not sad, but he's standing by his principles.